almost 34 years ago, 34 and a half years ago, as a sole proprietorship firm where he had certain distinguished or differentiating visions in his mind, not only of creating the leaders, but also to have an organization which imbibe and follow the values at the highest level, which I would say till now as an organization, we all have been following. But as we are growing as an organization, it becomes very important for all of us to have what are permitted, what we should do, we should not do, properly documented, so that we all are very clear as to the acceptable behavior or the acceptable conduct, what each one of us, either acting within the office or dealing with outsiders, so that we all are clear as to what we should do, we are permitted to do. So in that entire background, it was thought of, let us come out with a code of conduct for everybody in the firm, be it the senior most partner, partners, designate partner, or maybe let us an article office boy or any other person who is part of this organization. So let us have a code of conduct for all of us, which would be a unifying document taking all of us together. I would say a common thread which would guide, and I would say wherever there are any decision-making confusion or uh, I would say any behavioral aspect where we feel that what is permitted, not permitted, it would be like a Bible for us wherein we could refer and we would know as to what are the permissible boundaries. If I look at in the context of our country, like when we talk about the Constitution of India is uh, the I would say most important document which governs the entire nation. So I could somewhat make this COC document akin to that, wherein all the organizational policies, procedure, behavioral aspect, everything would be governed by this code of conduct. So this is, I would say, the broad background or objective. If I talk about this code of conduct, what we are going to discuss it today. I think Pradeep had shared mail with HA all this COC document, and I hope each one of you would have got sufficient time to go through the document. The objective of today's deliberation is more of a participative exercise wherein we as a partner, whatever we have thought of, we have tried to put up in a document, envisaging various practical situations also from the all of us working at different position. We will try to explain the context of each of the clause of code of conduct so that each one of us are clear as to what is expected. There could always be possibility of something missing out, something not coming out in the text, what is intended or so. So what we would do in the end or after the session, we would also share a form with all of you wherein you can raise any of your concern, suggestion or give input. The objective is that finally the COC, what we come out as a firm, it does not become only a document which is lying in the laptop or the printed file. It should actually become live in each of our action and behavior. So let us place it to make it a participative exercise wherein all of us would always strive to abide by this code of conduct. So before getting into this specification of code of conduct, let us try to understand what is the code of conduct. Any one of us, if could put in the chat box or can unmute himself as to what they understand in general code of conduct. Anyone would like to mention something?
I think, Ashish, can we start with finding out how many people are listening from locations in groups and how many people are there in the group so that we get an idea of what is the participation? That is one.
Yes.
Everybody here who has read that code of conduct, they may like to lift their hand. That is, if there is a hand signal. If they have not read it, let them not raise the hand signal. Locations, let us know how many locations and how many people have read it, read the document which Pradeep had sent. Can we start with that and then we will ask, we'll start with your matter. I also want to say a few words. Then it's all up to you.
Sure, sir. So, Kokila, would you just check out as to the location which have joined?
Yes,
We
sir.
can check here only, na? Locations where unmute and speak. How many people are there and how many have read the code of conduct? It is not mandatory that you have read it. You might have been busy. So if you have not read it, you say that you have not read it. Can we have one by one locations? Bangalore?
Sir, Bangalore, I have read it. Abhishek?
No, not that. I want to know whether a group is listening or only one. This is only an individual one. Groups are listening means we want to know how many people are there in the group. Bangalore, any group is there? No. Hyderabad? Anywhere else? Pune, anywhere where groups are there. Otherwise, we are assuming you all are not there in groups.
So I think in the chat box, Gurgaon is mentioned group 15 people. Kochi is listening in group. Vijayawada is listening in the group. Vijayawada people
Number
and
we want
Kochi
to know.
people can mention the number.
Number
Kochi and
of people
Vijayawada.
who are attending and number of people who have read the COC, which you said, na? You're hoping
Yes.
they have read, but if they have not read, then we know that these many people have to still read it.
Hyderabad, 40 people are in the group.
Wonderful.
Mumbai, 6 people are in the group. Kochi, 8 people.
And how many have read the COC also, please give. Vijayawada, please put the numbers. Even Kochi, please put the numbers. And also how many people have read? Read you put and then put your the numbers. For example, I think, yeah. No, this is a little confusing. Red, you should put Chennai red so and so. Gurgaon red so and so. Vijayawada red so and so. We want to know total numbers plus how many have read. Yeah. So Kochi 0. Nobody has read. Read 5 people. It's okay. 5 is 5. Better than Vijayawada. Better than Kochi. Read by 3 people there. Okay. Other groups. Quickly. So we can start. Vijayawada may be highest number. 5 people have read out of 10. You got everybody captured, Ashish?
Pune, Kolkata, Guwahati, Indore, Raipur, Bangalore, no response.
How many people have read, Ravi? Okay, nobody in Pune has read. Guwahati, nobody has read.
Kolkata, anybody is there? Raipur, anybody is there on the call?
Chennai, nobody has read, I think. They have not mentioned anything. Gurgaon, she has mentioned. Mumbai, how many people have read? You have not mentioned.
I think all the locations are joined except Kolkata. We are not sure if anybody has joined.
How many people in the group in Bangalore? This English of yours is terrific, Pukila. In Bangalore also, except 4, also not read. So we can't make out anything out of that.
Sir, only 4 has raised here hand and except like nobody else.
There is no group in Bangalore, no?
I think, sir, because nobody has informed.
Okay. So I think it's over 20%. Ashish have read.
On the higher side.
Huh?
20% on higher side.
Okay. Yeah. So there is lots. I will quickly give me 3 minutes.
Yes, sir.
I will
Certainly.
concise some. I think you have given a very good background. And in general, a code of conduct is required for what purpose? We need a code of conduct to differentiate ourselves. If you look at all the enterprises around us, the people who are able to imbibe good values in their people, and people are the backbone of any organization, whether it is partner designate, leaders, qualifieds, articles, staff, everybody. Have we absorbed the good values? Is the question. As far as H&A is concerned, we had earlier a vision, mission statement and values. Now we have added purpose to it. Why have we done that? We have done it so that those values and that culture is what defines each and every one of us. What we stand for. And we are making it public. This document is going to be put on our website and made public. There will be one code of conduct policy in the website itself. Anybody who opens, one code of conduct tab will be there. If they are interested, they'll go and see. What will happen when people read that? When they read it, they will come to know that we are one of the most accountable and responsible firms in India. And therefore, that itself will attract people. Second, what Ashish said, very, very important. This is not a tick box approach. It's not okay. Try to find out a loophole as to how you won't do it. It is the other way around. You will do everything as per that. When you have a doubt, go back to the COC and in the spirit, not only in the word or in the letters, in the spirit, follow it. We also will get some advantages that once we have a code of conduct, the next step will be that we can go for some recognition as under ISO, which will again differentiate it further. We want to reach 100 crores, 200 crores. We can't reach all these unless we have certain processes and we are looked up to. As it is, we are looked up to because of what we do. These things will add to that. With that, I will ask Ashish to go ahead. I will not interrupt unless he asks me to give a comment. In the end, I am also available for any question answer, and we can extend this session a little because it's as Ashish said, this is a historic day. Till now, we had only a vague idea about how we should behave. Now, today, Ashish is going to make clear to us how we can behave and will clear the doubts also. Ashish.
Yes, sir. And sir, wherever you feel your input is needed, you can certainly pitch in, even if I do not ask.
Okay, let's see. I'll
So,
try not to interrupt you, but okay.
Yes. So if I look at, sir, if I look at in general, the COC, basically it is a set of values, rules, or maybe some standards or principle, whatever an organization expect each of its resource to follow. So that I would say in the context, if I generalize what that could be the meaning of COC. And when I talk about the importance in general, where Madhukar sir had put up certain important aspect, also if I touch up some of the additional aspect, now when we have the COC document in place, this is expected to bring a commitment among all of us to be self-regulated. And as we all know that self-regulation is the best regime, because you cannot impose the things, and once the COC is in place and once we are committed to it, it will be more of a self-regulated auto mode organization. It highlights the seriousness of the leadership team to be more compliant, not only for the preaching to the members team, but also for themselves. So the most important part of COC when we'll go through today, you will find that the highest accountability is on the leadership team vis-a-vis the other employees. So that also is very important part of this COC. So it is not that what the leadership want everyone to follow. It is the first what leadership has to follow, and then that would anyway would be acting as a motivating point or guiding point for the team to follow the entire COC. If I look at from the external world perspective, like what Madhukar sir mentioned, clients, or I would say many times other collaborators or other stakeholders, maybe department people and all those, they would understand the value of the firm. Many of these people already know, and when we put it in the website or maybe in link or somewhere else, it would bring the values of the firm before each of the client. And when I look at not only this, indirectly somewhere it would bring the client for the firm also, because any client where they feel or where they are having similar culture or values, this like what Madhukar sir said would be a differentiating feature of our firm. So that in itself is going to have that advantage, and also in itself it would certainly act as a branding for the firm. So in terms of looking at the need of COC, some part we have already touched upon, but if I put it up more specifically, as of now, we have our purpose, vision, mission statement, wherein we have mentioned certain guidelines. But many times question comes, what is the meaning of these various terminology used in the purpose, vision, mission statement? What if a person deviate with the purpose, vision, mission statement, what is the bindingness of the purpose, vision, mission statement at all? So what has been done or tried to be done in the COC is to define or clarify the meaning of various terms used in the purpose, vision, mission statement, and also to make this vision, mission statement as a live document, which would make sure that it is not only pasted on the office wall or on your laptop screen, but we again imbibe it and follow the each aspect of this. It enshrines that we not only preach being ethical, but also we follow. Yes, it illustrates the firm's values and boost morale of each one of us. And also like it is a template as to what can be done and what cannot be done. So certainly this is going to serve various purpose for all of us taken together, or I would say individually. So with this, I would like to project a COC document what Pradeep has shared with all of us. Any one of you, if you have something to share, something to mention or some thoughts, certainly you can put in the chat box. Yes, if someone can confirm the screen is visible. Yeah.
Visible, Ashish.
So let us proceed on the code of conduct. I will not read word by word. I will just give essence of each of the section of the code of conduct. So first of all, if we look at this code of conduct, it is a comprehensive roadmap for everybody in H&A, whether partner designate, directors or the employees, in-house consultant, article consultant, other stakeholder, etc. Throughout the document, wherever the word leader is used, it would indicate to the partners, partner designate directors. Wherever the word stakeholder is used, it would denote to all other resources in the firm. The important part, it is intended to provide the guidelines by which H&A conducts its profession and profession related business. So it lays down the ethical standards that the leaders and stakeholder must observe in their professional lives while connected with HALLP directly or indirectly. So this is very important part. When anybody is behaving, whether in the office or outside the office, and at that point of time, it is clearly evident or indirectly evident that he is connected with H&A, even though it may not be office hours, but whenever it is connected with H&A in some way or other, we are expected to follow this code of conduct. So it is not only within the office premise, but it is in the other informal setup where it is the connection is being established between your behavior and you being part of H&A. And it defines the value system and culture at the heart of HALLP. This is a dynamic document which reinforces our canon of honorable behavior in profession and profession related business. The code has evolved over the years to keep in step with changing regulatory norms in India. It reinforced code enabled to reflect the diverse business, culture, and other factors that have a bearing on the health of H&A LLP brand. So if I look at, when I look at the regulatory norm, ICI has its own code of conduct, professional ethics, but why there is need of the code of conduct separately for H&A? Because we always have followed and demonstrated that our code of conduct or our behavior is, our ethics is somewhat beyond whatever is the provided in the ICI code of conduct. So in this code of conduct, not only the ICI code of conduct, but we have put many other items which may not necessarily be coming out specifically from the ICI code of conduct. And if we look at from the business fraternity, which business, if you let us say recollect any of the big name in India, be it the Reliance, Adani, Tata, Birla, whatever other name, which business you feel is the most respected business? Where, okay, whenever you feel hear the name, you will always find something connected with the country or somewhat connected with the professionalism or the quality or integrity. I think someone has put Tata. And I think each one of us would agree that whenever it comes to the name of Tata, we always have that feeling in mind that whatever is being done there would certainly be in the best interest of the country or the citizen of the country. So what we have also done in this code of conduct, we have attempted to amalgamate the ICI code of conduct, our code of conduct, what we have been informally following till now, and also we have taken certain good practices from the Tata's code of conduct. Ultimate objective, let us see that we also get that perception and value in the industry, like what we have been seeing about the Tata. So in all of us, in our professional lives connected with H&A, either directly or indirectly, can internalize the belief enshrined in this code of conduct, H&A legacy and its future would remain in good hands. So this is going to be a connecting thread for all of us. So now coming to some of the aspect where some clauses of the code of conduct would be relevant for leaders, some would be for the stakeholder, and others would be common for all of us. So if I look at the leaders, like what I mentioned, the objective of the firm has been always to create the leaders. So here again, H&A would always create empowered leaders with shared value system and adequate training. We'll always trust them to lead, give them opportunity and space to grow with minimum fetters. In tune with international best practice will encourage diversity. Today also we can see that we have very diversified leadership team. H&A would strive to inculcate highest standard for future partners and directors and implement clear criteria for present partners or directors. So there could be some confusion for something for the present partners or leaders or anybody who join the leadership team in future. They should be knowing well in advance as to what is the accepted set of behavior from them. The roles and responsibilities should be determined by the leadership team, which would be updated periodically. Now, if I look at the from the stakeholder perspective, we commit as a firm to provide equal opportunity to all its stakeholders for employment without regard to their race, caste, religion, color, ancestry, marital status, gender, sexual orientation, age, nationality, ethnic origin, or disability. So here there would be no distinction on account of any of these parameters. And very importantly, from HR perspective, any policy what we design in the firm, that should always be within these parameters, that it should promote diversity and equality in workplace and compliance with all local labor laws, while encouraging the adoption of best international practices. Each one of us in the firm are entitled to be treated with dignity in accordance with policy of maintaining the work environment free of all form of harassment, whether physical, verbal or psychological. The policies and practice should be administered in a manner which is as per the applicable law and the provision of code of conduct, because as a citizen we also have to abide by the law of the country. We have to respect for the right to privacy and right to be heard, and then in all matters equal and adequate opportunities to be provided to those eligible, and decisions are based on merit. We believe in the stakeholders' high satisfaction in their work-life balance. Very importantly, all HR policies of the firm should be designed and implemented in consonance with the above. If any of the policy is in the conflict with these standard or the principle, the code of conduct would override, and there would always be need to revise the policy to that extent. And again, it is not only the policy in writing, as we mentioned, the implementation of the policy on the ground. So if we look at some of the specific aspect from the stakeholder perspective, uh, the policy what would primarily deal with the recruiting, developing and promoting. Everything would be based on merit, qualification, competence, potential performance. Nothing like bhai bhatijawad that he is known to me, he is connected with me, so he should get priority and all those things. Leadership team and team leaders would be responsible for creating conducive work environment. We respect stakeholders' privacy, but very importantly, this cannot be, I would say, unrestricted right, what the Constitution also provides, because wherever if there is any conflict with the firm's interest or the work performance, or if it has an impact on the reputation of the firm, there certainly it could be subject to reasonable restriction. But yes, right of privacy would be honored for everyone. Stakeholders can enjoy being part of civic or public association. Each one of us can become part of any of these social circle or any association, unless it creates an actual or potential conflict with the interest of the firm, or if it brings disrepute to the firm. That aspect we have to keep in mind. We shall not make any willful omission or material misrepresentation internally or externally. With respect to article assistant, we should commit to give equal and adequate opportunity to all the trainees in the work environment. They should be given proper mentoring to excel in their exams and become a professional with high integrity and the knowledge. Because whenever you have joined the firm as an article, it is not only for the learning the subject or the GST or so, but it is a platform for you to make your entire professional life, and you have all right to be treated equally, equal opportunity, and with the ultimate objective of becoming a professional with the highest level of integrity and knowledge. So that is what is expected from everybody as a part of COC. So above principles should always be adhered to. In case of any conflict, then certainly, as I mentioned earlier, COC shall prevail. Now, if I look at the next part of uh, COC, I think there is message that voice is breaking. Whether this problem is for any other location also?
No, no, not for us.
Okay. So
maybe you can put off your video so that it will be clearer for Hyderabad.
I will just.
Yeah, though we would like to see you. थोड़ा blur है.
Okay. So now look at the knowledge. If we look at the knowledge part, this is, I think, the differentiating feature of the firm, what has we have seen till now. So one is the, I would say, awareness. Second is the knowledge, and third is the expertise, like what Madhukar sir also always put up this. So as a firm, collectively and as an individual, we should always endeavor to be not only the knowledgeable, I would say the expert in the field in which we are working. If we strive for mediocrity, then we would be like that only. So let us look at the COC also expect for each one of us to continuously put effort to be a knowledgeable individually and collectively. So all the leader and stakeholders should be committed to obtain and to keep updated their subject knowledge and skills, including managerial and technical. So it is not only the GST skills, but overall professional skills required by the professional by reading, training, sharing knowledge and support the building of capacities within the organization and as well as the profession and community they operate in. So like what we have always seen that as a firm, probably we are the one of the most open firm in the country to share not only within but outside the firm, where we do not fear at all in terms of sharing the knowledge, and we feel pride in sharing the knowledge. And the same philosophy is enshrined in the COC also, where we should look at individually to continuously strive for acquiring the knowledge and share it not only within the firm but also outside the firm and the community in which we all have been working. We have taken certain steps, have been repeating those steps repeatedly, but always this with COC, this will bring more accountability for all of us to strive continuously for the knowledge acquisition. Once we are knowledgeable, certainly that adds to the quality, but it is not the knowledge only which will ensure the quality. That requires certainly put up many more effort. And why the client is coming to us is because of the quality service what we claim to provide. And we all know that if even if there is a small, I would say, compromise in the quality, it could have a very large repercussion not only for the client on the advice what we give, but overall to the, I would say, existence of the firm also. So we all are committed to provide excellent professional service in timely manner of high quality standard, backed up backed up backed by follow-up service consistent with the requirement of its client while striving for their total satisfaction. The quality would be defined by the operational and or quality control panel of the firm, keeping in mind the quality standard as prescribed by ICI and other best national and international standard as may be pertinent to the type of profession in which HALLP is or would be engaged in. So you all are aware that you all must be aware or might not be that we have separate operational panel and quality control panel. So already document have been prepared to follow the qualitative aspect while we deliver. So there have been various sessions in terms of the operational procedure, IFM and so. So this quality control document has also been prepared, and that would also be there would be a separate session on that also with all of us to understand what are the quality control parameters, what are the expected from each one of us. The objective is any advice given from any part of the from anywhere in the country should, irrespective of the individual involved in the engagement, should bring out the consistent quality of the highest standard. So that is what we are striving and have committed through this COC. So certainly we'll have a separate detailed discussion on this quality aspect. Next is the ethical conduct, and you all would agree with me that this is again one of the most differentiating aspect of the firm. So every leader and stakeholder should follow and exhibit professionalism, honesty and integrity while conforming to the highest moral and ethical standard as prescribed in ICI Code of Conduct. Such conduct should be fair and transparent and be perceived to be so by third parties. So this is very important. It is not that what I am doing is ethical. It should be perceived also by anyone else while we are dealing, interacting that yes, what this person, gentleman, lady, organization, people are doing, they are very ethical and transparent. So that is very important aspect because many times we have seen that the word runs on the perception more than the actualities. So it is not only our actual behavior, but the perception around us should also always give that message that everybody here is following that ethical conduct fully. We all should involve in the effort to eliminate all forms of bribery, fraud, and corruption. So it is not only that we only participating, but also look at how do we be active in eliminating bribery, fraud, and corruption in the country, or at least I would say the area in which we operate. So we all would be responsible for implementation of and compliance with the ethical conduct in his or her environment. In fact, a question has come repeated times. What do we understand by the ethics? So here what we have done, we have linked the ethics with the ICI code of conduct primarily. Whatever is provided in the ICI code of conduct, professional ethics, all those ethics would be straight away applicable to all of us, including this ICI also code of conduct include that there has to be no bribery and all those things, which anyway we have more prominently put up. Also, like what Madhukar sir mentioned earlier, it is not the tick box approach, or I would say like as a professional where many times we find the loophole in the law. It is how we follow the code of conduct. That is what we look at when the ethical part of the code of conduct, if you look at specifically. So we as a leader and stakeholder should not directly or indirectly offer or receive any improper payment or benefit, whether it is pecuniary or otherwise, that are intended or perceived to obtain undue favors. So there should not be any behavioral aspect with the client, with the department officers, or maybe anybody else, which give a message that there is some favorism or some biasness, or we are trying to get something from them. That should never be, I would say, impression coming out like we have always believed and followed to be net giver. So we also always should strive for that particular thing. Gift and donation. So again, here what is expected from all of us that we should neither receive nor offer directly or indirectly any type of illegal payments or remuneration or gift, donation, comparable benefits, which are likely to be perceived or intended to obtain uncompetitive favors for the conduct of its profession. So neither for the purpose of like getting any work from the client or taking any gift, giving any gift, etc. That should never be there in our culture, which could actually or potentially compromise our independence. However, the leaders and stakeholder with full disclosure accept and offer nominal gifts, provided such gifts are customarily given and or are of commemorative nature. So like what we see normally, let us say on Diwali, some client has sent some visiting card or some calendar or diaries or these type of small gifts which are customarily given. To that extent, yes, certainly it is within the permissible, but any giving or taking of the gift which exceed beyond this customarily, which could indicate a compromising the independence, that is certainly not expected from anyone. Government dealing. So again, we as a firm individually and collectively should not, unless mandated under the applicable laws, offer or give any entity funds or property as donation to any government agency or its representative directly or through intermediary in order to obtain any favorable performance of official duties. So there should not be any gratification, any payment directly, indirectly to any government agency, intermediaries, representative also. But like let us say, if we give for Prime Minister Relief Fund because of some natural calamity or so, that is nothing to do with the opting any favorable performance of official duties or any professional favorism. So wherever the government dealing is are concerned, we should not, we are not expected to engage in any giving or taking which could compromise our independence or getting the favorable treatment vis-a-vis other. We are expected to maintain highest level of independence, transparency, professional and ethical standard while serving the government and its allied organization. In case of other entities, like sometimes we might be working with other entities where they are providing services to government or their allied organization, we shall never venture into partnership or JV with such other entity unless such entity is in HALLP collaborator in accordance with collaboration guidelines. So here we have a collaboration guidelines which would be annexure of this code of conduct, wherein what type of other professional firms with which we can collaborate either in the collaboration model, associate model, service provider model, etc. We have defined various models with other professional firms. If the firm is fitting up the criteria of the collaboration guidelines, only then we would be partnering or JV with that firm. Otherwise, we should be restricted only to service provider to such entity while maintaining our full independence and transparency. So this is very important, especially if we are dealing through other firm with the government. Ultimately, the objective is not only our actual action, but perception also should not bring out that we are engaged into anything which is not permitted directly or indirectly. Political affiliation. So as a firm individually, as a firm collectively, we are a political in its conduct. We as a firm shall never, I would say, committed to or support to any political party in the country, because for us the constitution and the governance system is the highest. Also, if I look at not only at the firm, but also as an individual, if when we are dealing with, I would say, yes, as an individual, each one of us would have their own right to be connected with some political organization to cast their vote, etc. But so long as we are part of the firm, we are not expected to accept any role or position in any political setup, which could give an impression that this firm or the people working in the firm are connected to some political affiliation. So it is not only the party, but any candidate also. So here also we have to keep this thing in mind, and also we shall neither give any funds or take for the purpose of any as a donation in any political party, candidate or campaign. So we have to be completely apolitical in its conduct. Though as an individual we always may have our own preferences for any political affiliation. Environment consciousness. So we all should strive to provide a safe, healthy, clean and ergonomic working environment for its people. We should prevent the wasteful use of natural resources and be committed to improving the environment. In its provision of service, we should strive for economic, social and environmental sustainability. So this is, I would say, as a citizen, we all are expected to contribute in the consciousness of the environment. Then regulatory compliance. So like I mentioned earlier also with the Institute Code of Conduct. So here as a leaders and stakeholder, we all in our professional conduct should comply with all applicable laws and regulation in letter and spirit in all the territories in which they operate. If the ethical and professional standard of applicable laws and regulation are below that of the code, then the standard of code should prevail. So this is very important to note that if any law is silent or the regulation is silent, or let us say if there is under any law something is permitted but which is not permitted under the code of conduct, then code of conduct should always override the applicable laws and the regulation. As a good governance practice, we should safeguard the confidentiality of all the information received by us by virtue of the position in the firm. Now, this is very important part or section of the code of conduct, conflict of interest. Now, when we look at as an individual, there could situation at a point of time where we find ourselves in the conflicting situation. Now, here what we have tried to understand or define is what do we understand by the conflict of interest? What type of situation could be covered in the conflict of interest? And in case of conflict of interest, how do we make sure that we avoid the conflict? And in case if any conflict happens or occurs, what are the, I would say, means to resolve the conflict in the best interest of the firm? So first we look at, okay, what is the conflicting situation? Whatever could arise in our professional duties. So as a firm, all the leaders and stakeholders should always act in the interest of the firm and ensure that any business or personal association which we may have does not involve a conflict of interest with the operation of the firm and our role within the firm. So in below indicative situation, we have tried to mention that a conflict situation, whether it is an actual conflict or potential conflict may arise. First is we as a leader and stakeholder conducting any activities with the client or person connected with the client resulting in a benefit to him or her or his or her relative. So while we are working for any client, any activity of ours which result in getting individual benefit for the individual who is working for the client. That could be said to be, I would say, conflicting situation what could arise. As a leader and stakeholder, we are in position to derive an improper benefit, not only for myself, but maybe for any of my relative by making or influencing decision relating to any transaction. So first part was that in terms of any activity, what we are doing with the client or connected with the client, we get any benefit. Then in the second part, if we look at uh, any decision relating to any transaction when we are advising to the client or any of the interaction which is getting any benefit for us or the family member. Awards of benefits such as increase in salary or other remuneration, posting, promotion or recruitment of a relative of a leaders and stakeholder of HALLP, where such an individual is in position to influence decision with regard to such benefits. So, I would say as a leader and as a employee or stakeholder, if any of the situation where any of my relative is part of the firm or which could result in the I would say any pecuniary benefit or promotion etc because somebody is my relative, so that could always be a I would say conflicting situation. So let us say for example if I am in the firm, one of my cousin is also in the firm because of I would say his competence, then if there is an evaluation or assessment, ideally it should not be by me because it could always lead to a conflicting situation because of that relationship. It could possibly result in giving some additional award or benefit to that individual. So any such thing which could result in this type of benefit within the firm. Any other situation which leads to compromise in independent decision making, leading to actual potential adverse impact on the interest of the firm. So these, as I mentioned, are very some of the indicative situation. In our day-to-day life, we could come across many situations wherein because of the circumstances, there is compromising to the independence of ours in terms of decision making, dealing with the client, interacting. So any of those situations wherever it is compromising to my independence, that all we should consider as a conflicting situation. What should happen in the conflicting situation? We'll see in the little later. One of the type of the conflicting situation could be accepting position of responsibility also. So what do we understand with this? So as a firm, as a leader or the stakeholder, we should not accept a position of responsibility in any other non-HALLP commercial organization. It's very important to note that let us say today I am working in the firm Simultaneous to working with the firm, we should not accept any other position in any other commercial organization, because that could possibly, or that would result in the coming in the conflicting situation where I might devote, I would say, more time to the other organization, or I might try to compromise on my entire position. So how do we define as the accepting position of responsibility? So we should not accept a position of responsibility in any other non-H&A commercial organization without prior written approval of executive committee in case of leaders and locational partners in case of other stakeholders. So if in case a person is there are some peculiar situation where a person has to temporarily or for some other purpose has to be part of some other commercial organization, that if it is a leader who is seeking for this accepting position of responsibility, it should be with the prior written approval of executive committee. In case of any other stakeholder, it should be with the prior approval of the locational partner. However, in below cases, it would not be treated that we are accepting the conflicting position. What are these situations? So let us say we any one of us are nominated to any of the H&A entities, joint venture or associate companies. So like for example, we are going to have separate law firm near future. So if anyone is nominated to any of the joint venture associate company H&A entities, so it will not be certainly treated as a conflict. Membership position of responsibility in educational or professional bodies or trade bodies, wherein such association would benefit the leaders and stakeholder of the H&A. So if we look at any educational organization or any professional organization or any trade bodies, trade commerce like CII, PSD Chamber, FICCI, or any other these type of association or members, which are in the individual interest of that member and for the firm. Nomination membership in the government committees. Let us say government has constituted some committee wherein they want, because of your capabilities, they want you to make a member of that committee or body. There is nothing wrong in that. Independent director in professional capacity. So as a leader, let us say if you are appointed as an independent director in any other company as a, in professional capacity, or any other exceptional circumstances as may be determined by the executive committee. So in this situation, it shall not be treated that I would say conflicting position is accepted. Notwithstanding any of the above conflicting position of a situation or position of responsibility or other instances of conflict of interest that exist due to historical reasons, because we are implementing COC on record now, but there could be possible that any one of us are already having some relationship or having some position in some other organization or any other conflicting situation, then it would be mandatory for all such person to adequately and make full disclosure to the EC or the locational partner as the case may be. Upon the decision being taken, the leaders or stakeholder concerned should be required to take necessary action as advised to resolve and avoid the conflict. So ultimately the objective is we should not accept any other position of responsibility of commercial nature. If we are holding any of such position, let it be disclosed to the leadership. If any of the leader itself is having this type of relationship, then it should be brought to the EC. Effort should be made to resolve to or avoid the conflict. So that is primarily the object as to how we could look at some of the example what has been put up in the chat box also could be partially someone of us might be selling the insurance policies or trading in the share. I would say like future and optional transaction or part of any other commercial organization or so. So if any of these things are there, then it has to be appropriately, conflict has to be resolved. Leaders should submit the details of transaction with clients beyond a specified monetary limits In such manner, age may be specified. Notwithstanding, there is no conflict in such transaction. So here there is an additional responsibility on the leaders that, let us say, as a leaders, one of the client we are serving, which is a real estate client, and as a leader, we are booking a flat in that client project itself, and we are getting that I would say plot or flat at the open market rate only. So there are no conflict, but there could always be a potential conflict. So if such type of transaction which are beyond a specified monetary limit, I think a limit of 1 lakh rupees is specified in the annexure. So that has to be, I would say, declared to the firm by the leaders to ensure that there is no conflict in such transaction. So that is how this entire conflict of interest situation is there. The effort should always be first that we do not get into any conflicting situation. In case if any such situation exists, we should at the earliest possible opportunities try to avoid or resolve the conflict at the earliest. Next, if we look at the securities transaction, so many of the firms, especially I would say the audit firms, where they are required to do the attestation function. So there they have a specific mandate to declare all the, I would say there are restriction prohibition on dealing with the shares of the client, etc. So here what we have done, some of the reasonable restriction, what we have put up in the code of conduct. Let us look at this particular thing. So as a leader and stakeholder of HALLP and his or her immediate family should not derive any benefit or counsel or assist others to derive any benefit from access to and possession of information about the client that is not in the public domain and thus constitute unpublished price sensitive insider information. So let us say we are working as a GST audit for any client, which is the listed client. And because we are privy to certain information, which is not known in the public or open market, we are not permitted to use that information directly or indirectly in getting any benefit for us or any of the connected family members or so, which would be a price sensitive insider information. Then leaders and stakeholders of the firm should not use or proliferate information that is not available to the investing public and which therefore constitute insider information for making or giving advice on investment decision about the securities of the client on which such insider information has been obtained. I would say more or less the essentially the same thing what I mentioned in the first part. Leaders and stakeholders should also respect and observe the confidentiality of information pertaining to other companies, their patent, trademark, etc. Now, this last part is also very important. Leaders and stakeholders should not involve in any day-to-day trading activities in securities, which results as business income, including speculation under the Income Tax Act. So here what is expected as a leader or as an individual, there is nothing what stops you from investing your money in equity market, share market, or any other instrument, whatever is permitted under the law. You have all freedom to do everything of that nature. However, the only restriction is that we none of us are expected to engage in day-to-day trading activity wherein we always log into the share market. We are engaged in buying, selling of shares, which I would say primarily is once you start it as a continuous activity, then it becomes, I would say, business income under the Income Tax Act, and any activity of ours which results into the day-to-day trading activity that is strictly prohibited. And if you look at the objective of having this in the code of conduct is because once we get into that mode, then there would always be compromise to our time in the office, compromise to our dedication to the work, and compromise on our zeal or urge to be knowledgeable. So anything which results in the day-to-day trading activities in the security transaction, that is not permitted. And as a higher bar, or I would say higher disclosure norms on the leaders. All the leaders would submit their income tax returns annually with the firm in the time within such time and manner as may be specified. The guidelines what have been appended to the code of conduct provides that within 1 month of the due date of filing of returns, all the leaders are expected to submit their returns to the firm. So again, it is nothing for the scrutiny perspective, but it is the best disclosure norms. What is expected from the leadership team that none of us as a leader are involved in any of the income generation which is not permitted as per the COC. Be mind this submission of income tax return is not applicable for the other stakeholders. Now the firm's asset. So if we look at any of the firm asset, they should not be misused. They should be primarily used for the firm and judiciously for the purpose of conducting our professional duties. These includes tangible asset as well as all the intangible asset, including IT system, proprietary information, IPR, relationship with customer, supplier, etc. So it should not happen that our relationship with customers or client or whatever this thing is exploited in a way that we get some direct or indirect personal benefit out of that. So all these assets should be used in the best interest of the firm. Confidentiality. So as a leaders and stakeholder, we should ensure at all times the integrity of confidential information, whether it is some data, information, IPR, etc., which is furnished. We shall be entirely responsible for ensuring the confidential information is retained in the confidential manner and it is not transferred to any outside person in the course of normal operation without express guideline from or the approval of the management. So anything about the client which is confidential or anything which is inside the firm, whether it is any data, information, IPR, all of us are strictly required to follow the confidentiality and not to leak or share any of these information outside the firm. Concurrent practice or business, again very important. No leader should engage in any concurrent practice or business while being in the firm, except in the exceptional circumstances warranting short-term engagement in such other practice or business for the purpose of running or maintaining the family on urgent basis with prior intimation to EC. So the objective is that as a leader, there should not be deviation or focus of the leader in concurrent any other practice or business. There should be full focus on the activities of the firm. However, there could be sometime very exceptional situation where because of the family restriction challenges or so, if for a short-term purpose it is required to be done, it would again be always under the approval of the EC. Then position of responsibility or freelance service should not be provided to any client, associate, collaborator of H&A or to any organization where there could be conflict of interest. So there should be no position of responsibility as we mentioned earlier, and no freelance service should be given to any of these which could result in the conflict. So long as it is in the public interest, you are giving, let us say, training to some department officer without any consideration, there is nothing which is in the conflict of interest. But anything which is against the consideration or without the consideration also which is given freelancing, that is, I would say, not permitted by the COC if it is in the conflict of the firm. Next part, which I would say again the one of the differentiator of the firm has been the social contribution. So many of us might be aware that we as a firm have been making the difference in the education of the underprivileged children, wherein we have committed that 2% of our gross turnover each year is set aside for the purpose of giving the education to the poor and underprivileged children. Now, as a part of the COC, we do assume it more of an, I would say, responsibility where till now it has been observed that Many times we are falling short of that 2%. Now, it has been provided in this COC guideline that as a H&A, we should be committed to good corporate citizenship, not only in the compliance of all the laws and regulation, but by actively assisting in the improvement of quality of life of people in the community in which we operate. We expect and encourage all the leaders and stockholders in collaboration with community group for enhancing education and other social cause in India as per the CSR policy. So we have defined a specific CSR policies. In the CSR policy, there are various criterias. As of now, it has been decided among the leadership team that till March 24, we shall spend this contribution in the education sector. In March 24, we can revisit if any other social cause objective has to be added. So the CSR policy has detailed guidelines in terms of the selection of the school, selection of the children, what could be the route of giving the benefit, how to make sure that the benefit given actually reaches to the target that student, and finally they derive benefit out of this. One underlying or fundamental principle in the entire CSR policy is that the beneficiary from that CSR policy should not be directly or indirectly related with H&A or as an individual to us. Or in other words, there should never be an expectation while contributing that we would get something in return. So that is the, I would say, fundamental objective or the principle what has been kept in mind while designing the CSR policy. It should be pure CSR without nothing expectation as a quid pro quo. So we shall commit to contribute 2% of the billing realized for this purpose in accordance with standard guidelines for utilization of such contribution. So all of the stakeholders should come forward. They are also free to identify the uh, deserving beneficiary surrounding their environment where they feel that yes, they fall in the CSR guidelines of the firm. That would be shared, CSR guidelines would be shared with all of you. You should look at if you find any such deserving students or deserving cases, you bring it to your locational partner through them. I would say within the permissible financial limit, we shall always try to give as much benefit to the deserving students as possible. So let us make it a collective exercise wherein we all participate in this very social and noble cause. Next is the collaboration and association. So many of you would have observed that at different location we have been working with many CFM. Like recently, if we look at, we have tied up with Singi at the national level also, and like that we have been working with many other CFM, and we have been providing services to many CFM at the branch level. So till now, there were certainly some of the ambiguities as to what all criteria we should look at, what all specific business model could be with the other CF firm also. So here we have put up a detailed collaboration and association guidelines wherein different type of relationship have been defined. One is the collaboration. So collaboration would always be with the firm which matches the, I would say, the value system, ethical system, what the firm, we as a firm have been following or striving for. There could be associate model. So in the associate model, there would be lesser degree of resemblance or I would say resonance, but certainly largely those firm would also be such where they are also following this value system or the quality system what we follow as a firm. Then there could be networking study circle, which already has been going on from quite a reasonable time from the Bangalore. So like that networking study circle, we are planning to expand at the national level. Wherever any of these things are missing and any of the other professional firms comes to us for the services, we could always provide services to them on the service provider model. So we can always bill to them and provide services to them. Certainly, we shall never engage with the firm or any other person who are in type of, I would say, gunda, mafia, and all those things. So there are detailed guidelines which I would say may not be that relevant for the stakeholders. It is more relevant for the leaders or maybe other employees at the senior manager level also. So they could certainly go through that guidelines to understand so that if any professional opportunity comes before them in terms of collaboration or engaging with other CFM within the permissible criteria, we could always look at having that type of association. Just a second. Yeah. Next is the financial statement. So here I would say we shall maintain all our financial statement in accordance with, just a second, I think. Yeah. So we shall prepare and maintain financial statement which are fairly and accurately and in accordance with all accounting and financial reporting standards would be as per the standard laws and regulation. Our accounting and audit procedures should reflect fairly and accurately all of the business transaction and disposition of asset. And we should have sufficient internal control to provide assurance to the leaders that the transactions are accurate and legitimate. All required information should be accessible to the auditors and other authorized parties. Any willful material misrepresentation of and or misinformation on the financial account and report should be regarded as violation of the code apart from inviting appropriate civil or criminal action under the relevant laws. So there should be, I would say, complete transparency, openness, compliance with the law in terms of all the financial dealing of the firm. There would be proper accounting control system wherein everything would be transparent and available. So anything which is, I would say, in conflict or which is in misrepresentation with respect to any of the financial statement or so, so that would be treated as violation of code of conduct and which would invite appropriate, I would say, consequences or repercussions. Now, if I look at the last part of COC, so whatever we have discussed till now, there have been various areas what are expected from all of us. Now, there could always be a question in our mind, what if I'm missing any of these things? Let us say there is an environmental consciousness and there is something which where a particular employee or person failed to abide by the environmental consciousness. So what would be the consequences? Other situation, if I take, let us say there is accepting position of responsibility in other organization, where one person has assumed that professional, that responsibility in other organization. So the question is, in case there is violation of any of the code of conduct clause, then what is the repercussion? So the clause 20 deals with the disciplinary action, which is very important for us to understand. So what does it provide? Leaders and stakeholders shall be liable for disciplinary action in accordance with the policy, including termination of employment or retirement from partnership. You can observe that any of the violation of code of conduct is not only for the employee, but any of the partner also if engaged into any of the violation, then that partner shall also be liable for retirement. In case of violation of the following clause forming part of COC. So there were 19 clauses above, but yes, we have observed that all 19 clauses, some of those are more of recommendatory nature, but many of those are of such substance where there cannot be any compromise accepted. So in these 9 clauses, that is ethical conduct, collaboration, gift and donation, government dealing, concurrent employment, practice or business, conflict of interest, financial statement, gross negligence of quality service, very important, gross negligence of quality service, gross negligence in regulatory compliance. So any of our action individually or as a collectively, if it leads to violation of any of these 9 clauses, then there would be appropriate disciplinary action. That disciplinary action in extreme cases could result in the termination of employment or retirement from the partnership. So the procedure for the disciplinary action is provided this thing in the detailed, I think, in the guideline. But the very important part is it is not that any disciplinary action would be taken on the face of it. There would always be following due process of natural justice. So if there is any allegation against any employee, it is not that merely based on the allegation, the decision would be taken. There would be appropriate escalation metrics wherein any of these allegation has to be appropriately brought to the concerned authority, which have been defined separately as a partner or the EC, depending on the type of the conflict and the person engaged in that violation of COC. So it should be brought to them. There should be reasonable evaluation of that conflict, and there shall always be given a, I would say, opportunity of being heard by following due process of natural justice. So taking extreme decision would be certainly in the extreme cases where I would say it is beyond doubt that the person has been engaged in violation of any of the particular code of conduct. So this is how this disciplinary action has been provided for. So there is question as to how this disciplinary action would be there. Let me just give me a minute. So I'm opening another document which is dealing with the disciplinary action. Uh, just a second. So it is not on the screen. So disciplinary action first would be what would be the basis of identification of any of the conflict. So some of the indicative parameter, not the conclusive parameter, some of the indicative parameters are that if there is any complaint from any partner, leader or other stakeholder of the firm, or if there is complaint from third party that any of your, I would say, partner, leader, or the employee has engaged into any activity which is not as per the firm COC, because as we mentioned earlier, COC would be put up on the website also, or any apparent contravention of COC where it is very clearly evident that a COC violation has been done, then that could be some indicative parameter. Any complaint should be reasonably validated and should be communicated to the EC in writing. Reasonably validated. Now, how this any method or procedure would be there to coming to the final decision. So, for the purpose of the partner, there is a separate mechanism what is provided for the purpose of coming to final decision where the it would be I would say identified within the leaders, then forwarded to the EC. Then EC would examine it by taking the or evaluating the non-confidential confidential information, and they would either clear the allegation or take the appropriate disciplinary action. In case of, I would say, any other stakeholder other than the EC, then above procedure, the same procedure what is there for the EC, then instead of EC, it would be referred to the concerned local partner. So if let us say there is a perceived violation or actual violation of any of the code of conduct, so in that situation that would be brought to the local partner, then local partner will take the decision, appropriate decision under intimation and guidance of the executive committee. So I'm just repeating again, if it is for the, if there is violation by leaders, then it would be routed through EC. If there is violation by person other than the leader, then it will be the respective locational partner under intimation and guidance of EC. So here again, the role of EC would be executive committee would be important, where under their guidance, the final decision would be taken. Some of you might have been thinking of what is this EC Executive Committee. I forgot to mention in the beginning. Within the partners, we have been following the system of having a governing council wherein some of the partners are designated and the any of the strategical decision making, some of the operational decision or any of the exception, etc. Those are brought to the EC executive committee members. Executive committee partners deliberate on the issues and they give their recommendation to the partners, the entire partners. And once if the executive committee recommendation are accepted to the partners, in that situation, I would say that executive committee recommendation would be final. Else, it would be the all partner decision would be the final. So in case of leaders and partner, it would be through executive committee. In case of other than the execute leaders, it would be through the local partner under the intimation and guidance of executive committee. If there is a location where there is no partner or there are only partner designate, like presently if I look at Raipur, Guwahati or Kochi or Indore or Ahmedabad, we are starting very soon next week. So if any of these location, it would be through the connected partner or linked partner, because for all of these location, a partner has been linked to oversee the operation of that location. So any of the alleged violation of the code of conduct in these location would be routed through the linked partner. So that is how this disciplinary action part is there. Now on the concluding part from my side, as an employee, all of us should go through this code of conduct again, understand the spirit behind this, bring out any of the challenges you oversee or you observe in this, give your inputs, wherever conflict, bring it to the attention. At the end, it would be signed by each of the individual employee of the firm and all the leadership of the firm. So it would be individually signed by each one of us, wherein we all would be taking a place to commit with the COC in true spirit. So that exercise would be done through HR. So after today's deliberation, we will share a form wherein any of your question you could, I would say, mention your comments, feedback you can give. If you do not have any clarity on any of the clause, you should connect with your local partner or designated partner. They would clarify to you. If still they have any doubt or confusion internally, they will discuss within the partner involved in this draft of code of conduct. And wherever, again, if clarity is missing, if needed, it would be taken to the all partners or the EC as the case may be to give final clarification. So let us all come together and pledge to follow this code of conduct in full spirit and also complete this procedure of signing and adopting it in this current calendar month only. So with this, I'll conclude my part of discussion. Now we have other partners also. Madhukar sir is there. So any of the things what if I have missed or communicated somewhat incorrectly, let us take their views. Any one of you can also, if want to express anything, please mention either in the chat box or by unmuting yourself. Thank you. Yes, Madhukar sir.
I have only one thing, Ashish, that we have one enhanced bit for the leaders, right? Which
Yes.
you are going to have another meeting for explaining. What enhanced code of conduct for the leaders, correct?
Yes, sir. So within this code of conduct at various places, it was only the leaders what were made responsible. In the annexure to this on the, I would say, procedural part, there are enhanced responsibilities. Yes, as a part of any of the next session, whenever we'll be getting doubt resolving and all those things, probably we will have to have one more session. In that, specifically 20-30 minutes we'll spend on the enhanced responsibilities of the leaders vis-a-vis other stakeholders.
Yeah, that's it. Otherwise, I think you covered quite well. I think we'll wait for questions from others.
Any other partners if they have any input? Pradeep, I think you are there
100%.
and you were actively involved in this entire drafting. Any of your inputs?
Yeah, so you have covered almost everything, sir. So, a couple of points I would like to reiterate or add is that. So, in case of our regular conduct of work where we get a doubt whether it is ethical or not, you are required to follow this code. And once you are following this code, you can rest assured that you are doing an ethical work. So, wherever there is a conflict or a doubt, I would suggest each one of you to go through, and this will be a guiding document which will help you to resolve such doubts. And one more point which I would like to highlight is that as any conflict to this code of conduct will directly distribute the firm, I would suggest each one of you to even identify a scenario where there is a conflict. Say, for example, someone you are aware that someone of us has done some conflict. Immediately, I request you to report to the your respective partner so that they can evaluate and they can take action against the respective person. So that's also.
Thank you, Pradeep. So I think no question, no comments. I think it will take some time for people to digest it. So as I mentioned earlier, all are requested to go through it again and get clarified any number of doubt what you get in any part of the COC, because that is key to its proper implementation, that all of us understand it very properly. So can we close with this? Madhukar sir, anything from your side?
No, nothing. I think you've done a wonderful job. For queries, you can keep yourself and Pradeep as the main point. If I am also available, if required. First level, you can send to Pradeep and Ashish only, and I'm sure they'll clarify. Send it in mail. Don't pick up the phone and ask, because then it won't be on record. Right then. Thank you.
Yes.
Have a nice weekend. Thanks for everybody joining. I think we had more than 200 people on the call. Good.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you. Nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
sir.
Thanks all.
और ये काटना पड़ेगा, टैरी काटनी पड़ेगा।